What's up guys, welcome back to another tutorial, and for today's video we're going to be drawing Frieza. For this video I decided to stick with graphite pencils, specifically the 3B and 4H pencils. Now before we get into the video, I wanted to let you know about a big problem I've been having. At this point in my channel I've drawn more artwork than I know what to do with, and I've started throwing some of them away. Poor Krillin and Yamcha were the first ones to get recycled, but I've had to throw away others too. In fact, with the exception of the artwork that you see behind me, I've had to toss out almost everything else. But this seems a bit wasteful, which is why I've given some serious thought to just giving it away. I haven't figured out the details yet, but what I've thought about doing going forward is just sending the drawings to whoever requested it. Leave your comments below and let me know what you think. If I get enough people who want me to start sending them out, then I'll probably figure out a way to do it. With that being said, let's go ahead and start today's tutorial. Oh, one more thing, stick around for the end of the video and I'll give you a sneak peek at what I got in store for the next tutorial. I'm going to start off by drawing an X. I'll make it barely visible so it's easier to erase later. We've drawn the X crooked because his head is going to be tilted to the side. We won't draw the bottom of his eyes directly on top of the X-axis, but it should be off to an angle, and that's because his eyes are going to be more narrow than most other Dragon Ball Z characters. In addition to his head being tilted, we want him to be facing slightly to his right, and to do that, we'll move his Y-axis off center. This should be enough to indicate that he's looking to his right. The rest of the details around his eyes shouldn't be too difficult. Just make sure the lines follow the same path as his eyes. That way we can avoid having too many conflicting angles on his face. His nose should cover the width between his eyes. If his nose looks too big, that means you've probably drawn his eyes too far apart and need to start over. Better to realize that now than after the drawing is finished. His mouth will cover the width between his pupils. Unlike most DBZ characters, we'll actually draw the shape of his lips. Now it's time to draw the jaw. We will draw a line through his mouth that follows the same angle and path as his eyes. Then we'll draw his jaw. Followed by the side of his head, and finally the top of his head. The rest of his head will be easy, since we don't have to worry about drawing any hair. Since his head is tilted to the side, his left ear will be drawn slightly higher than his right ear. And since his head is turned slightly to the right, his left ear will also be drawn slightly larger than his right ear. You can see here that I've accidentally made the right ear too large, but I'll fix that in a little bit. I always feel a sense of relief when I'm done drawing the character's head, and that's because I know that the hard part is over. You can make mistakes on the body and not have to worry about it too much. You can't get away with that with the face or the hair. It'll make your art look sloppy. Now it's time to go over my sketch with a fine liner. Since this is a pencil drawing, for my fine liner I'll use a 3B sketch pencil. Before speeding up the video, I wanted to play a short clip of how slow I'm going in real time. fine lining is definitely the most stressful part of the drawing process, because if you mess up, you won't be able to completely erase your mistake. And if you're using a pen as your fine liner, you can forget about erasing altogether.
It's not a game, it's a rich thing.
Once I'm done going over the lines, I'll switch to a 4H sketch pencil and lightly go over his entire body with a single layer of graphite. This should barely be visible. Now we're going to define the area for our next layer of shading. To get the depth in our image that we want, you'll probably have to add 2 additional layers with the 4H pencil. Okay, now we can finally fix his right ear and make it the correct size. Next, we'll begin shading the darkest portion of his face. We're going to start off with solid black, but soften our touch with the 3B pencil as we move closer to the middle of his face. We should be left with a nice gradient that transitions seamlessly from the darkest shade to the lightest shade. As a final touch, we'll go over the right side of his face one more time with the 4H pencil. That'll help us smooth out the graphite and get rid of some of the white spots. Now let's move to his chest. Here we won't have much of a gradient, and we'll rely more on solid boundaries to have a clear separation from the lighter and the darker shaded areas. With part of his left shoulder, we'll return to using our gradients. We're finally in the final stretch, and all we have to do is finish shading the natural armor on his head and shoulders. Alright guys, thank you for watching to the end of the video, and as promised, here's a sneak peek at our next tutorial. For the next tutorial, I'm going to be drawing Allucard from Hellsing. As you can see, I'm about 25% of the way done. I still have to finish the inking process. I need to go over it with Copics, color pencils, pastels. This is going to look super badass once it's done, and I can't wait to show you guys the final result. Thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.